Let's talk Tanya for the 22nd of Adar. Yesterday, we spoke about God's desire for a dwelling place here in this lowly physical world. And that's why He created this world, and that's why He created everything. And God's desire will actually be actualized when Mashiach comes, when He will be present and He will be at home over here in this world. As it turns out, however, this happened already once, and that was by the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. The verse says, "Ato harei soladas ki Hashem hu elikim ein oid." At that time, God allowed Himself to be seen in His full glory over here on this world. Everyone was able to see God and God's unity, and essentially that's really what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. God will be revealed in this world in His full glory. But that didn't last. We know that 40 days later, there was the sin of the golden calf, and ultimately the world rebounded in a negative way and went back to being a coarse, materialistic world, a world which is oblivious to the unity of God, which is revealed by the giving of the Torah. And that's why ever since then, for the last 2,500 years or so, actually 3,300 years or so, we are working towards Mashiach, when we will once again experience the same thing that we experienced by the giving of the Torah. And why is that? Because we spoke about God's desire to have a dwelling place down here in this world, but there's one important point that we did not discuss yesterday, which is it's not just that God wants to have a dwelling place here in this world, because if that's what He wanted, He could just do it. He can have it, reveal Himself over here. He wants that this dwelling place should be created by the inhabitants of this world. It should be, in the words of Chassidus, it should be bitachtoinim al yedei atachtoinim. It has to be a dwelling place in the lowest realm, but it has to be a product of the work of the inhabitants of the lowest realm. And otherwise it isn't lasting. Otherwise it is imposed from above, which is what happened by the giving of the Torah, which is why it didn't last. God revealed Himself. We weren't ready for it. But through the work, throughout the years of exile, we are finally refining ourselves and working on ourselves to the point that when it happens again, we will actually be worthy of it. It is something that is a product of our work and our refinement. Now, as we mentioned yesterday, the concept of dir b'tachtonim, the concept of a dwelling place here in this world, is a radical idea because it reframes everything. To put it in simple words, dir b'tachtonim, God's desire to have a dwelling place specifically in the lowest realm, what that means is that the word higher and greater are always going to be mutually exclusive. If something is higher, it's not greater. If it's greater, it's not higher. Our world is the lowest world, which is why it's the greatest world. This is where God wants to have His home. And this is true in so many other areas of life also. And if you look at Chassidus is filled with this, you might want to say, this tension or this dichotomy. Yes, this is higher, but this is greater. Davening every day, that is the highest part of the day. But what is the greatest part of the day? The greatest part of the day is when we go out into the world and we have a job and we bring godliness over there. That is even greater because that is the ultimate dira b'tachtonim. In fact, when Moshe goes up on Mount Sinai and he encounters the angels, and the angels say, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I'm coming to get the Torah." And they say, "You don't get the Torah, you're too lowly." God wouldn't give the Torah to the two human beings, they're so lowly. And Moshe's response essentially boiled down to, we get the Torah not despite our lowliness, we get it because of our lowliness. Ultimately, we have to understand, the lower something is, that means that is where God is the most hidden, and that is where it is our job to bring godliness. That is the kavana, that is the ultimate intention. So we spoke a lot about what is the reason why God created the world, because He wants a dwelling place over here. But then the question becomes, well, how do we do it? We already found out today we have to be the ones who do it. How do we do that? How do we build this home for God, which will be completed with the coming of Mashiach? And that will be the conversation in tomorrow's Tanya.